Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Michael Oliver, and we are here with we have a brand new title this week. So it is
We do, yeah.
called The Money is in the Conversation, Michael Oliver.
The
The Money
money
is
is
in the
in the
Conversation.
conversation. How do we like that? I'm not sure. Maybe
I think it's
maybe we
great.
need to how to talk with people without fear, anxiety, or losing your friends, or how to build your business faster without fear, anxiety, or losing your friends.
See, I
You
don't
know,
even need to do intros. I could just
after all, it is
smile
the
and send it
title
on to
of the
you.
book, isn't it? Say again?
I could just smile and send it on to you. So here, I'm going to pass it over to Michael, and we'll get right into it. I'll set
Okay,
you up to present to everyone, Michael, and take it away.
great. I don't have to write your name down this time, Glenn, because I spent all morning learning it and remembering it, so that's pretty good. I'm very happy about that. Okay, so today we're going to talk about how to talk with people that you know, whether you know them indirectly or directly. And essentially, it's just exactly the same process. It doesn't matter who you're talking with. It's just that the start is a little bit different, that's all. So let's deal with some fundamentals first, and then we can look a little bit more deeply into how do you have that conversation. So let's do some recap. Recap is that people are looking for, generally, okay, one or more of four things. And so I've just done a little thing here for you. And they're looking for, let's make sure you can see it, looking for more money, okay, more time, more freedom, or better health. I mean, those essentially are the missing ingredients in many people's lives. Now, you know, a lot of people have the missing to a lesser or greater degree. I think there are probably more people who would like to have more money. And remember, it's not the money, it's what the money will do for them than probably anything else. You know, people looking for better health and so on. And what the whole conversation is really revolving around, you know, whether they have what they're looking for, or what they have, sorry, what they want, or whether they want what they have. Anyway, so our job is to find out if there's a difference between what they have and what they want. That's all we're doing. And that's what we do basically before, most of the time, as a rule of thumb, before we start offering our solution. So just bear that in mind, okay? Bear that in mind. And so our objective then, just to repeat, is to find out if there is a difference between what they have and what they want. Just really that simple. That's the goal. That's the first goal. It's not to make a sale. It's not to talk about carrot bars, not to talk about our solution or what we think or anything else like that. It's simply that. Allow them to talk about their lives and indicate if there is anything missing. And then we tune into that and work out whether, in fact, if what is missing for them is something that we can help them with. And of course, we have to find out how important it is for them to get what is missing, or to replace what they have and get something better, something like that. So that's in your mind. That's the whole drill inside here. Okay, it's not about selling or getting them involved in what you think is really good for them, what you think is irrelevant. So that's the key. If you can get that buried in there, you've won half the game. You know, it is a game. It's a fun game. It's a fun game finding out, helping people, and so on and so forth. So how do we then call or talk with people that we already know? Well, there's another little acronym that we can use. Excuse the background noise there. Little truck is going by. There's an acronym that we can use, and many of you have already seen this before. It's in the word of forms. Okay, family, occupation, recreation, money, and spiritual. Okay, and so most conversations will revolve around one or all of those particular items, forms. So it's a good little acronym to remember, to have on hand, forms. And so when you're calling up somebody you know, somebody you might know intimately, somebody you might not know so well, or when you're talking with them, one of the things to do is to recall past conversations. And whereas in the past you might not have really listened to them because you didn't really care, and I don't mean that in an unkind way, but you're probably more interested in talking about what you wanted to talk about. And if that truck doesn't go away very quickly, I am going to close the patio door. You know, now is the time to reflect on the things that they told you, and start reflecting on, you know, any difficulties or challenges they might have had with regards to their family relationships, with their kids or with their spouse, maybe health issues, for example, they've had. Have they been resolved or not? We look at their occupation, their jobs. Have they had any issues there? Have they been resolved? Probably not. And just think about them. Write them down if you like. Write down some of the things that you remember them talking about their jobs. About sports. Maybe they got a sports injury. Maybe you know, there's something about their recreation. Maybe they've expressed a desire to get involved in some kind of sport like sailing, and wish that they could afford a sailboat or a motorboat. You know, you're looking for gaps in what they would like to have, and what they don't have. Money, you know, money is an issue for a lot of people. Not having enough, for some having too much, you know, wondering what to do with it, and that kind of stuff. There's an opening there, for example. So there's always two sides of the coin, always looking for the negative side. You know, some people have too much of stuff and they're looking for other things. Some people have money, they have a position, they have power, they have all sorts of things. And sometimes they're looking to help people. There's something missing in their lives. They want to help people. Maybe you're the person they'd like to help. Maybe they got contacts, that type of thing. So there's all range. There's hundreds and hundreds of things that people are looking for. And so one of the things that you could do is start reflecting on what you've had in past conversations, so that you can bring it up again in another conversation. So when you call them or talk to them, you ask them, you say, this is an easy one, okay? So how's that job going? You know, last time we spoke, you told me that you're having a tough time there, and just opening up that and allow them to talk about it. And they might have resolved it. Things might have been resolved. Everything is good. Maybe they didn't resolve it. Excuse me a minute. This is an opportunity for me to get rid of another noise that's just come up. There we go. That's much better for me. Hopefully it's better for you as well. Thank you. You know, sometimes things are resolved, but it might not be resolved to their fullest satisfaction. You know, just because they've sorted the issue out, maybe they've got more money and so on and so forth. It might not have been there. So ask them to expand on it. Ask them about that. They might say, yeah, that's great. I've got my issues sorted out with my boss. I got the money I wanted. I got the position and respect and so on and so forth. And say, well, that's good. I'm really glad to hear that. So so is there anything else you would change if you could? And they might say, yeah, I'd still like to change the job because it sucks. Or something else that comes up. And so always it's about tell me more, tell me more, tell me more. And one of the key things is not to interject your own feelings into it. You know, if someone's got something resolved, say, well, great, I'm really happy for you. You know, I'm happy you got that resolved. But be very careful about offering advice or interjecting too much feeling into it, because your feelings aren't going to be the same as their feelings. You know, the classic is, I know how you feel. Well, you better really know how they feel, because it sounds like a throwaway phrase, and most people inwardly know that, you know, you don't really know how they feel. So be very careful about that. So what do? So you open up, you just have the conversation, and you're looking to find out how big the gap is between what they want and why they want it. And it's exactly the same conversation after that as you would have with anyone else, talking about you know, creating needs awareness questions. Needs awareness questions: how's it going? How's your family? How's your occupation? How's your job? You know, tell me more about that. The needs development questions is about sort of tell me more about that. You know, how do you feel about that? And then you can get into other questions, such as solution questions. You know, sort of have you worked out how to resolve that? Have you done anything about resolving that? What would you do if you could? And on it, you know, how would you feel if you managed to make it work? Or how are you feeling right now that it doesn't work for you? It's just easy, simple questions, and expand on the answers. Allow them to talk about the answers. No judgments, and no interpretation, no what you think. until you get to a point of basically resolving, you know there's a problem, resolving it, potentially resolving by saying sort of, well, you know, how important is it for you to change that? And again, they're going to tell you, give them a 1 to 10. We've done this before with previous episodes, so there's actually no real difference. It's just that the beginning and how you approach it is different. And here's one thing, you know, no one ever said you had to come to a conclusion in the first conversation. Remember, some of these people are your friends, people you know for a long time, and so stretch it out over 2, 3 conversations if you like. You know, they're still there, not going to disappear. Don't be in such a rush. Go slow to go fast, so to speak. So, you know, you don't want to slow it down too much, but you want to be able to keep that relationship. And so you might get some people, though, who know that you've been involved in a network marketing company or something like that in the past, and they might just ask you and say something effective, you know, sort of, why are you asking me? You're still involved in that network marketing company, you know, etc. Just tell them, say, yeah, I am. I'm finding it very useful. You know, they might turn around and say, well, I'm definitely not interested in doing that. You know, it's not for me. It's not something I want to do. You say, okay, that's fine. And I'm not going to force you to do anything. And let me ask you, you know, how is whatever it is that's going on? You know, the classic is, so you've looked at you've told me in the past that your job doesn't work. You know, we've spoken about a potential solution, and 2 years later, you know, you've done nothing about it. How's that working out for you? Now, you can put it in a more kindly way, but that's essentially what you're really getting at. You know, so so come from that place, okay? Be very strong in yourself. If you believe in what you're doing, you believe in what's happening, then stay strong there. It's not your position to defend yourself. It's their position to defend themselves. Okay, so let it just run on a little bit there. Just a few random thoughts that came out of my mind. That's it pretty much overall. So Glenn, if you've got any questions, please come up with them. And those of you who are, let me just bring up my Skype thing here. And those who've got any questions, you can put them on the Team Gold Star Skype and ask them there. There you go, Glenn, back to you.
Can you go over the forms again? That's a really great acronym, and just sort of, I think you on the first two you kind of touched on some conversation openers, but really maybe expand a little bit on especially the family one. The family one, I know you said before, well, if you've asked them much times, don't ask them again. It's like, is that your own family, or you're talking about their family, correct? You're talking about someone that you know, their family.
Well, their family, your family, if you like, you know. I mean, I've never had much success with my family. It's like, you know, I don't force the issue. You know, ultimately, it's everyone's decision. I can't persuade people to do stuff. I can only help them to potentially persuade themselves. But so here's the thing again, is form. So, okay, family, occupation, recreation, money, and spiritual. So if we were to look at the family, you know, when we're talking about other people's family, you know, there's a lot of family issues that can be there. You know, I heard that we hear about dysfunctional families around the place. Well, I'm of the theory that there is no family which isn't dysfunctional. Every single family is dysfunctional in some form or another. You know, something is going on there. And so, you know, talk about family. I mean, usually the other some other aspects come into it, such as money. You know, not being able to afford the recreational pursuits that the family would like to afford. You know, maybe they can only go on vacation once a year for 2 weeks. Maybe they can't afford the hockey equipment, the football equipment, baseball equipment, whatever it is for their kids, or they have to go to a secondhand store, you know, to do that, and they have to do that quietly because they don't want their self-esteem or to be you know, to be affected, that type of thing. And when people talk about this, you know, that's what's going on inside of them when they talk with you. So family is really about, you know, all aspects of what is going on in their family life. their occupation, you know, the parents working, that can have an effect on their family life. You know, if both parents are working, they don't get to see the kids. That's affecting them. Why can't they see the kids? Maybe they need the two incomes out of it. You know, how's that affecting them? You know, how do they feel about that? How would they feel if, in fact, they could get a third income, which potentially could take over one of their incomes, so that they can be great parents and raise their kids in their informative years? That type of thing. You know, be with them at times of recreation, at the sports games and so on, and not have to, you know, rush what they're doing and sometimes not turning up. It's these issues which, if you listen to people, they'll tell you, and asking them to expand on it and how they feel about it and how they would feel if they didn't have to do that, and asking them, saying, well, what if there was a different way? What if there's a way you could get out of where you are? What if there's a way you could move forward? What was there if there was a way you could get the things that you just told me you wanted, and you repeat it back to them? You know, how important is that for you to change? You allow them to tell you. Does that answer your question there, Glenn? I'm not sure.
Yeah, absolutely. The last one was the spiritual one, though. That was the one I was a bit more sort of, how could you, you know, tie in spirituality and saying, well, you could, if you had more money, you could be more spiritual?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of spiritual people who have a hard time with money. You know, they don't see the match between spirituality and money. You know, money is just whatever it is. You know, there's no disconnect. In fact, I love looking on the back of cars, the bumpers sometimes, where it says something in effect, prosperity is your divine right. And it is. You know, we're born prosperous. You know, there's absolutely no reason why we shouldn't be prosperous. Money is not the root of all evil. In fact, lacking money is the root of all evil, in effect, because by not having money, you don't have enough to help others, to give it away, to circulate it. You know, having a poverty mentality, which isn't always everyone's fault. I mean, that's the way that might have been brought up, you know, means that you're hoarding and hoarding inside yourself. And if that poverty mentality is probably affecting you in other areas. So from a spiritual point of view, you can be spiritually wealthy and you can be financially wealthy at the same time. There is no contradiction. You know, look at a lot of the spiritual leaders, you know, they're very, very wealthy. What they do with their money, though, is their business. I know many years ago, when I first met Deepak Chopra, be about 17 years ago now. You know, I know that he was very interested in money, and the money is because it enabled him to maintain his organization and get his message out. But he very rarely spoke about it. It wasn't important to him from that point of view, but it wasn't something that you want to speak about because it was ugly or he didn't want to talk about it. It's just that he had a detachment from it, but he was very aware about making money, and he did a lot of things to make it, including writing books. But he just detached from the idea, and he wasn't really that much interested in his bank account because he knew his bank account was always full. He didn't have to think about it. You know, he wasn't worrying about it. He told his kids that, in fact, as well. He said to them, I want you to grow up not thinking about money, about the fact, because and whether you got it or not or anything, just think in terms that you do have it. It'll always be there. And if you think of those terms, it will always be there. And they're all very healthy, very wealthy people in their own right, as far as I know, because it's been a few years now since I've seen them.
That's it, you know, just listening to that is just, it floors me that imagining a world where no one had to think about money. Like, how amazing. Think of the stuff that would get done. Like, it'd be phenomenal. Well, I guess maybe some things are done because of scarcity or because of a need to, but I just think it's just unbelievable that most problems like that, the list of the 4 problems, it's money is such a big component of it. And talking about families, 2 incomes, now we're looking at, you need to have 3 incomes to live in Vancouver here, at least. Or
I don't think money solves everything.
It doesn't solve everything.
Money, money is a result of a behavior you had in the first place, and many times. I mean, some people just fall into it, but basically it's a result of a previous behavior. You just change the behavior, and it starts flowing. That's really what it's all about. You know, having money doesn't make you a better person necessarily, unless your goal is to be a better person, because perhaps you don't feel so great about being the person who you are. But you know, I think the idea of the whole world having lots of money, I don't know. I'm not sure that the same problems wouldn't be there.
I don't think that lots of money. I think to be able to get by, you know, to be able to live comfortably and not have to struggle constantly just to, you know, get by, basically.
But that's the whole thing, isn't it? Most people have that idea of getting by. I just need enough money to get by, and therein lies the kind of the subconscious brain, which is just, that's where you are, as I need enough money to get by. So you're looking for enough to get by, as opposed to just saying, I want more than enough. I want, what is enough? You know, is there such thing as enough? For some people, there's no such thing as enough. They want more and more. What do they do with it? I don't know. We turn around and say, you know, they got so much money, why don't they go and help countries and do this? I mean, a lot of those people do anyway. But you know, it's a judgment in our own minds. Anyway, I think we're getting a little bit off track here.
No, but it's in the conversation. It's good. I think it's good. Yeah. How often do you practice your conversations in your head?
Oh, all the time in my head. And always coming up with different obstacles that I can work out. Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's just all preparation. Preparation is 90%, isn't it? Execution is 10%. You know, when someone comes up with a question or comes up with a remark or a comment that I haven't met before, and I'm not able to address it, you know, not able to deal with it, I'll go away and think about it and think, how would I be able to do that? Because after all, you know, prepare for everything and expect nothing. That's how each conversation goes for me. I mean, there's an expectation it's going to work out well, but I don't have an expectation that every single conversation is going to end up with a sale or an enrollment or anything like that, because that leads to disappointment. The way to get to eliminate disappointment is really to eliminate or get rid of your need to be to get whatever it is that you want to get. I mean, it's just a goal, so it's nice.
I notice as we've been doing these weekly calls, my conversations are completely different from when we started. They have a different flow. It's really interesting because once you start asking those questions, you there's a tipping point where you can't ask them. All of a sudden, you're kind of forcing and trying to get these conversations, these questions you're asking, and all of a sudden you're in conversation and they start coming out of you just because you've been practicing them, which I'm finding is really, really interesting. It's just that all of a sudden you can you know, be there's a quote, be the chess player, not the chess piece.
I haven't heard of that one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they do. You know, just practicing asking questions and just letting it flow. And remember, one of the keys is that a lot of your questions are coming from the answers to your previous questions. But it's always about, if you're talking about your product, your service, you're talking about carrot bars in the background, for example. And I don't mean you're talking about it, but you have that and the idea that you're going to introduce it is just focus on those objectives. Is there a difference between what someone has and what they want? And if there is, what is their desire to do something about it and make a change? And it's then that you introduce the idea of a solution. And sometimes it requires some education, especially in something like this, but more and more people are aware of what's going on in the world and are looking for more security. They're looking for more safety. They're looking to be able to protect themselves and their families. And a lot of them scratching their heads as to how to do that. And there's still a lot of money around, and people realize that it's rapidly going out through inflation and other means. And also, the fact that they have nowhere to invest or keep their money in safe harbor. So, it becomes an education process for a lot of people. But I think the solution here is a really good one. So having
It's
said
an
that,
amazing solution. I love it. It grows
yeah,
every week. I love it.
yeah. Oh yeah, it's great. It's the gift that keeps on giving, right?
Growing and growing. So.
Okay, so
Awesome.
we have no questions this week. Glenn, thank you. Appreciate that. And we'll have episode 12 next week, and I'll come up with a title before then.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Michael. Appreciate your time. And your book's on your website, right?
Book's on the website.
If you haven't read the book, go get the book, because I'm reading it probably the second or third time now, and it makes 10 times more sense after actually experiencing and trying these methods. So thank you so much, Michael.
And there's a chart there for you which gives the outline of the different stages of conversation. You can get it all from there.
Yeah,
it's all in here. So thanks, Glenn. Talk with you next week.
All right. Cheers, guys.
Okay, bye everyone.